I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hey Patriot Warrior fam, I'm Face, and these are the histories that America forgot. According to Wikipedia, quote, "The Battle of Gonzalez was the first military engagement of the Texas Revolution. It was fought near Gonzalez, Texas, on October 2, 1835, between rebellious Texian settlers and a detachment of Mexican army soldiers. The Mexican Constitution of 1824 liberalized the country's immigration policies, allowing foreign immigrants to settle on border regions such as Mexican Texas, and to bring their slaves with them. In 1825, American Green DeWitt received permission to settle 400 families in Texas, near the confluence of the San Marcos and Guadalupe rivers. The DeWitt colony quickly became a favorite raiding target of the local Karankawa, Tonkawa, and Comanche tribes. And in July 1826 they destroyed the capital city, Gonzalez. The town was rebuilt the following year after DeWitt negotiated peace treaties with the Karankawa and Tonkawa. The Comanche continued to stage periodic raids of the settlement over the next few years. Unable to spare military troops to protect the town, in 1831 the region's political chief instead sent the settlers of Gonzalez a 6-pounder cannon, described by historian Timothy Todish as, quote, "a small bored gun good for little more than starting horse races," end quote. Historian Thomas Rick Lindley states that Green DeWitt wrote to the Mexican authorities asking for a cannon, and they responded with a loan of a Spanish 6-pounder bronze cannon, on the condition it be returned when asked for. Lindley states that the Texians also had a much smaller iron cannon, of 1-pounder caliber or less. In 1829, Mexico ended slavery and freed the slaves throughout Mexico, but negotiated an exception for the American immigrants in Texas. In April of 1830, Mexico closed its border to new immigrants who had not already been authorized to join an existing colony. During the 1830s, the Mexican government wavered between federalist and centralist policies. As the pendulum swung sharply towards centralism in 1835, several Mexican states revolted. In June, a small group of settlers in Texas used the political unrest as an excuse to rebel against customs duties, in an incident known as the Anahuac disturbances. The federal government responded by sending more troops to Texas. Public opinion was sharply divided. Some communities supported the rebellion for a variety of reasons. The new policies, the ban of slavery and immigration chief among them, and the increased enforcement of laws and import tariffs, incited many immigrants to revolt. The border region of Mexican Texas was largely populated by immigrants from the United States, some legal, but most illegal. Some of these immigrants brought large numbers of slaves with them, so that by 1836 there were about 5,000 enslaved persons and a total non-native population estimated at 38,470. Others, including Gonzalez, declared their loyalty to Mexican President Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna's centralist government. Local leaders began calling for a consultation to determine whether a majority of settlers favored independence, a return to federalism, or the status quo. Although some leaders worried that Mexican officials would see this type of gathering as a step toward revolution, by the end of August, most communities had agreed to send delegates to the consultation scheduled for October 15th. In the interim, many communities formed Texian militia companies to protect themselves from a potential attack by military forces. On September 10th, a Mexican soldier bludgeoned a Gonzalez resident, which led to widespread outrage and public protests. Mexican authorities felt it unwise to leave the settlers with a weapon. Colonel Domingo de Ahuartechea, commander of all Mexican troops in Texas, sent a corporal and 5 enlisted men to retrieve the cannon that had been loaned to the colonists. Many of the settlers believed Mexican authorities were manufacturing an excuse to attack the town and eliminate the militia. In a town meeting, 3 citizens voted to hand over the gun to forestall an attack. The remainder, including Alcalde Andrew Ponton, voted to stand their ground. According to historian Stephen Hardin, quote, "The cannon became a point of honor and an unlikely rallying symbol. Gonzalez citizens had no intention of handing over the weapon at a time of growing tension," end quote. The soldiers were escorted from town without the cannon. Ponton anticipated that Ahuartechea would send more troops to force the return of the loaned cannon. As soon as the first group of soldiers left Gonzalez, Ponton sent a messenger to the closest town, Mina, to request help. Word quickly spread that up to 300 soldiers were expected to march on Gonzalez. Stephen F. Austin, one of the most respected men in Texas and the de facto leader of the settlers, sent messengers to inform surrounding communities of the situation. Austin cautioned Texians to remain on the defensive, as any unprovoked attacks against Mexican forces could limit the support Texians might receive from the United States if war officially began. On September 27, 1835, a detachment of 100 dragoons, led by Lieutenant Francisco de Castañeda, left San Antonio de Béjar, carrying an official order for Ponton to return the cannon. Castañeda had been instructed to avoid using force if possible. When the troops neared Gonzalez on September 29th, they found that the settlers had removed the ferry and all other boats from the Guadalupe River. On the other side of the swiftly moving river waited 18 Texians. Albert Martin, captain of the Gonzalez Texian Militia Company, informed the soldiers that Ponton was out of town, and until his return the army must remain on the west side of the river. With no easy way to cross the river, Castañeda and his men made camp at the highest ground in the area, about 300 yards from the river. 3 Texians hurried to bury the cannon, while others traveled to nearby communities to ask for assistance. By the end of the day, more than 80 men had arrived from Fayette and Columbus. Texian militia companies generally elected their own leaders, and the men now gathered in Gonzalez invoked their right to choose their own captain rather than report to Martin. John Henry Moore of Fayette was elected leader, with Joseph Washington Elliott Wallace and Edward Burleston, both of Columbus, respectively elected second and third in command. On September 30th, Castañeda reiterated his request for the cannon and was once again rebuffed. Texians insisted on discussing the matter directly with Ahuartechea. According to their spokesman, until this was possible, quote, "The only answer I can therefore give you is that I cannot allow and will not deliver to you the cannon," end quote. Castañeda reported to Ahuartechea that the Texians were stalling, likely to give reinforcements time to gather. In San Antonio de Béjar, Ahuartechea asked Dr. Launcelot Smither, a Gonzalez resident in town on personal business, to help Castañeda convince the settlers to follow orders. When Smither arrived, On October 1st, he met with Militia Captain Matthew Caldwell to explain that the soldiers meant no harm if the settlers would peacefully return the cannon. Caldwell instructed Smither to bring Castañeda to the town the following morning to discuss the matter. At roughly the same time, Moore called a war council, which quickly voted to initiate a fight. It is unclear whether the war council was aware that Caldwell had promised Castañeda safe passage to Gonzalez the next morning. Texians dug up the cannon and mounted it on cartwheels. In the absence of cannonballs, they gathered metal scraps to fill the cannon. James C. Neal, who served in the artillery company during the War of 1812, was given command of the cannon. He gathered several men, including Almiron Dickinson, also a former U.S. Army field artilleryman, together to form the 1st Artillery Company of Texians. A local Methodist minister, W.P. Smith, blessed their activities in a sermon which made frequent reference to the American Revolution. As the Texians made plans for an attack, Castañeda learned from a Causada Indian that about 140 men were gathering in Gonzalez with more expected. The Mexican soldiers began searching for a safe place to cross the river. At nightfall on October 1st, they stopped to make camp 7 miles upriver from their previous spot. Texians began crossing the river about 7 p.m. Less than half of the men were mounted, slowing their progress as they tracked the Mexican soldiers. A thick fog rolled in around midnight, further delaying them. At around 3 a.m., Texians reached the New Mexican camp. A dog barked at their approach, alerting the Mexican soldiers, who began to fire. The noise caused one of the Texian horses to panic and throw his rider, who suffered a bloody nose. Moore and his men hid in the thick trees until dawn. As they waited, some of the Texians raided a nearby field and snacked on watermelon. With the darkness and fog, Mexican soldiers could not estimate how many men had surrounded them. They withdrew 300 yards to a nearby bluff. At about 6 a.m., Texians emerged from the trees and began firing at the Mexican soldiers. Lieutenant Gregorio Perez counterattacked with 40 mounted soldiers. The Texians fell back to the trees, fired a volley, injuring a Mexican private. According to some accounts, the cannon fell out of the wagon upon the shot. Unable to safely maneuver among the trees, the Mexican horsemen returned to the bluff. As the fog lifted, Castañeda sent Smither to request a meeting between 2 commanders. Smither was promptly arrested by the Texians, who were suspicious of his presence among the Mexican soldiers. Nevertheless, Moore agreed to meet Castañeda. Moore explained that his followers no longer recognized the centralist government of Santa Anna and instead remained faithful to the Constitution of 1824, which Santa Anna had repudiated. Castañeda revealed that he shared their Federalist leanings, but that he was honor-bound to follow orders. As Moore returned to camp, the Texians raised a homemade white banner with painted in black in the center over the words, quote, "Come and take it," end quote. The makeshift flag, lost later the same year, evoked the American Revolutionary era slogan, quote, "Don't tread on me," end quote. Texians then fired their cannon at the Mexican camp. Realizing that he was outnumbered and outgunned, Castañeda led his troops back to San Antonio de Béjar. The troops were gone before the Texians finished reloading. In his report to Uartechea, Castañeda wrote, quote, "Since the orders from your lordship were for me to withdraw without compromising the honor of Mexican arms, I did so," end quote. 2 Mexican soldiers were killed in the attack. The only Texian casualty was the bloody nose suffered by the man bucked off his horse. Although the event was as characterized by Davis, quote, "an inconsequential skirmish in which one side did not try to fight," end quote, Texians soon declared it a victory over Mexican troops. Despite its minimal military impact, Hardin asserts that the skirmish's, quote, "political significance was immeasurable," end quote. A large number of Texians had taken an armed stand against the Mexican army, and they had no intention of returning to their neutral stance towards Santa Anna's government. 2 days after the battle, Austin wrote to San Felipe de Austin, Committee of Public Safety, quote, "War is declared. Public opinion has proclaimed it against a military despotism. The campaign has commenced." End quote. News of the skirmish, originally called, quote, "the fight at Williams Place," end quote, spread throughout the United States, encouraging many adventurers to come to Texas and assist in the fight against Mexico. Newspapers referred to the conflict as, quote, "the Lexington of Texas," end quote. As the battles of Lexington and Concord began the American Revolution, the Gonzalez skirmish launched the Texas Revolution. Before fighting had officially erupted, Santa Anna had realized that stronger measures were needed to ensure calm in Texas. He ordered his brother-in-law, General Martin Perfecto de Cos, to bring approximately 500 soldiers to Texas. Cos and his men arrived in Goliad on October 2nd. 3 days later, after learning of the events at Gonzalez, the soldiers left for San Antonio de Béjar. Gonzalez became a rallying point for Texians opposed to Santa Anna's policies. On October 11th, they unanimously elected Austin their commander, despite his lack of military training. The following day, Austin led the men on a march towards San Antonio de Béjar to lay siege to Cos's troops. By the end of the year, the Texians had driven all Mexican troops from Texas. The cannon's fate is disputed. According to the memoirs, written in the 1890s, of Gonzalez's blacksmith, Noah Smithwick, the cannon was abandoned after the cart's axles began to smoke during a march to San Antonio de Béjar to assist in Austin's siege. Smithwick reported that the cannon was buried near a creek, not far from Gonzalez. A small iron cannon was exposed during a June 1936 flood near Gonzalez. In 1979, this cannon was purchased by Dr. Patrick Wagner, who believed it matched Smithwick's description of the cannon used in the battle. The curator of military history at the Smithsonian Institute verified that Wagner's cannon was a type of small swivel gun used in America through 1836.
You're never gonna make it, you're not good enough. There's a million other people with the same stuff. You really think you're different? Man, you must be kidding. Think you're gonna hit it, but you just don't get it. It's impossible, it's not probable, you're irresponsible. Too many obstacles, you gotta stop it, yo. You gotta take it slow, you can't be a pro. Don't waste your time no more. Who the fuck are you to tell me what to do? I don't give a damn if you say you disapprove. I'm gonna make my move, I'm gonna make it soon. And I'll do it cause it's what I wanna fucking do. Cause all these opinions and all these positions, they come in millions, they blocking your vision. But no, you can't listen, that shit is all fiction. Cause you hold the power as long as you're dreaming.
There's no way that you make it. And maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Aren't you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Aren't you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back? Fight back. You ain't gonna make it, you ain't never ever gonna break it. You can never beat them and they're better than you face it. Thinking that they give a damn, you're not thinking straight, kid. No, they don't give a damn, you got what I'm saying? I'm not fucking playing, I'll give it to you straight, man. There's too many others and you're not that great, man. Stop what you're saying, stop what you're making. Everybody here knows that you just faking. Nah, I don't wanna hear it anymore, I don't wanna hear it anymore. All these fucking thoughts, they are not what I need anymore. I'm about to shut the motherfucking door on all you poor ass haters with your heads in the clouds, talking out loud so proud. You better shut your goddamn mouth before I do more speak out. It's about to head south. You're never gonna make it. There's no way that you make it. And maybe you can fake it, but you're never gonna make it. Aren't you just gonna take that? Make them take it all back. Don't tell me you believe that. Aren't you just gonna take that? Or will you fucking fight back? Fight back.
Bye.